Spirit Airlines was never America's most glamorous airline. But for millions of travellers, it was something more important. It was affordable. For years, Spirit's bright yellow planes carried students, families, vacation travellers, and budget-conscious passengers who were willing to give up comfort if the fare was low enough. The airline's business model was simple. Sell the seat cheaply, then charge separately for bags, seats, snacks, and other extras. That model helped Spirit become one of the most recognisable ultra-low-cost carriers in the United States. But in the end, even that model could not survive the numbers. Spirit has now ceased operations after failed rescue talks, bankruptcy struggles, and an attempted federal intervention. Before dawn on Saturday, May 2nd, 2026, the carrier stopped flying. It had failed to secure an agreement with bondholders on an 11th-hour bailout from the Trump administration. So the big question is this: why couldn't even Donald Trump save Spirit Airlines? The answer is not simple politics. It is airline economics. In a message to flight attendants in the early hours of Saturday morning, the Association of Flight Attendants wrote, "We are delivering the hardest news of our lives, that Spirit will cease operations at 3 in the morning on May 2nd, 2026. While the country has had a blast making Spirit the butt of the joke, we've built a strength together that could withstand anything that anyone throws at us." The union called on federal officials to deploy the full capacity of the government to support workers who had abruptly lost their income, healthcare, and livelihoods. Association of Flight Attendants President Sarah Nelson said, "Spirit flight attendants are not just some asset to be written off in this process. Their lives matter. These are people who showed up for work every day, flew millions of passengers across the country, and now have no employer, no paycheck, and in many cases, no health insurance." Keep that in mind as we walk through the numbers. Spirit was not just having a bad quarter. It was facing a financial collapse that had been building for years. In 2024, Spirit generated about $4.9 billion in operating revenue, but it lost about $1.1 billion at the operating level. Its operating margin was roughly negative 22.5%. That means for every $100 Spirit brought in, it was losing more than $22 before even getting to the final bottom line. Now compare that with Delta. In 2025, Delta reported $63.4 billion in operating revenue, $5.8 billion in operating income, and an operating margin of 9.2%. American Airlines reported record full-year revenue of $54.6 billion that same year. That comparison matters. The big legacy airlines have premium cabins, loyalty programs, corporate travelers, international networks, and cargo revenue. Spirit had one play: keep fares low, keep planes full, make money from optional fees. That works when costs are stable. But when fuel, labour, and debt all hit together, the model becomes fragile. And then the Iran war happened. Spirit's restructuring plan had assumed jet fuel costs of about $2.24 a gallon in 2026. By the end of April, prices had climbed to around $4.51 a gallon, more than double the forecast, after the United States and Israel attacked Iran in late February. That single shock wiped out Spirit's remaining financial runway. Spirit's problem was not only that it was cheap, the problem was that it was cheap with almost no buffer left for when something went wrong. This is where the European comparison becomes interesting, and where the differences run much deeper than most people realise. Ryanair carried about 200 million passengers in fiscal 2025 and reported nearly €14 billion in revenue, with over €1.6 billion in profit after tax. EasyJet reported total revenue of about £10.1 billion in fiscal 2025, up 9% from the previous year, with nearly £4.7 billion in liquidity. So why could Ryanair and EasyJet survive, while Spirit could not? The first answer is airports. In the United States, low-cost carriers generally operate out of the same airports as legacy carriers. That means the cost difference between a budget airline and a major carrier might be just 20 to 30%. In Europe, by contrast, costs can sometimes be as much as 50% lower when budget airlines operate out of smaller secondary airports. Ryanair deliberately flies to small secondary airports, sometimes located further from city centres. This not only helps reduce airport taxes, but it also allows Ryanair to secure subsidies from local city councils who want to attract the tourist traffic Ryanair brings. Spirit never had that structural advantage. It competed at the same expensive terminals as American, United, and Delta. The second answer is fleet discipline. Ryanair has built a uniform fleet opportunistically. In 2003, amid an industry slump, it made a massive purchase of high-quality Boeing 737-800 jets at deeply reduced prices. This bulk purchasing strategy yields volume discounts from manufacturers, and it allows Ryanair to staff an in-house maintenance crew, which is vastly more economical than relying on external contractors. Spirit, by contrast, faced significant disruption from Pratt & Whitney engine groundings that forced it to park aircraft it was still paying for, while simultaneously having fewer planes available to generate revenue. The third answer is competitive geography. Ryanair and EasyJet have largely avoided direct head-to-head competition by choosing different route networks, which reduces the pricing pressure each faces from the other. Spirit was fighting Delta, American, United, and Southwest, and also JetBlue, Frontier, and Allegiant simultaneously. Every one of them had deeper pockets, more routes, and stronger loyalty ecosystems. That is why the European comparison, while instructive, only goes so far. The structural conditions are simply different. And when Spirit tried to find a bigger partner, that path closed too. The JetBlue Spirit merger was blocked in 2024 on antitrust grounds. Supporters argued it could have given Spirit a lifeline and created a stronger competitor to the big three legacy carriers. Critics said removing Spirit as an independent low-fare carrier would reduce competition and hurt consumers. The court sided with the critics. The real battle, though, was fought privately in the days before the shutdown, and it was uglier than most realise. The Trump administration proposed $500 million in financing in exchange for warrants equivalent to 90% of Spirit's equity. This was not a loan in the traditional sense. It was near total nationalisation in exchange for keeping the lights on. But the deal required agreement from Spirit's bondholders, and that is where it collapsed. Some of Spirit's bondholders, including Ken Griffin's Citadel and Airlines Management Corporation, opposed the deal. The opposition also came from inside the administration. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy told Reuters, "What we don't want to do is put good money after bad. Would we just forestall the inevitable and then own that?" Duffy also said he had tried to get multiple airlines to acquire Spirit and found no takers. He asked, "What would someone buy?" That question is devastating in its simplicity. A government can offer money. It cannot manufacture buyer interest that does not exist. It cannot make an airline profitable by executive order. Trump delivered what he called a final proposal on Friday. He told reporters, "If we can help them, we will, but we have to come first. If we could do it, we would do it, but only if it's a good deal." The board met late Friday night. No agreement was reached. At 3 in the morning on Saturday, Spirit stopped flying. One creditor put it plainly. The Trump administration made an extraordinary effort to try and save Spirit, but you cannot breathe life into a corpse. The shutdown will put 17,000 workers out of a job, including 14,000 Spirit employees and thousands of contractors whose livelihoods depended on the airline. United rebooked 14,000 Spirit flyers within 12 hours. Southwest, JetBlue, American, Frontier, and Delta all announced capped rescue fares. The seats will be filled. But replacing capacity is not the same as replacing pricing pressure. Spirit was the number 2 airline by flights at Detroit Metropolitan Wayne County Airport, carrying 1.7 million passengers in 2025. In markets like that, the absence will be felt. And remember the frontline worker who described Spirit as a lifeline during the pandemic? The one who flew to Florida for $13 one way, just to regroup and see family. They wrote online, "I honestly don't know how I would have made it through that time without those moments to regroup. I will always be grateful and loyal to this airline." That is who Spirit served. Not premium travellers, not loyalty program obsessives. The $13 ticket crowd. So why couldn't Trump save Spirit Airlines? Because the collapse had already happened before the rescue attempt began. 2 bankruptcies, a blocked merger, a fuel price that doubled in 2 months, bondholders who would not move, and an airline that had spent years losing money on every dollar it earned. That is not a rescue story. That is a conclusion looking for a date. No administration, regardless of political will or deal-making capacity, can manufacture solvency for an airline the market has already decided is finished. Flying in America is about to get measurably more expensive for the people who could least afford it to begin with. That is not a political statement. That is just arithmetic. If you found this useful, please like this video and subscribe to Runway Reports. There is a lot more of this kind of analysis coming. See you in the next one.